Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Improve Podcast, the official podcast of CLSC Studios. I'm your host, Chase Collins, and Merry Christmas, everyone. It's December 26th, and this episode, it's not 5 in the morning. I'm not about to go on a run. I am just sitting down, talking with you all. All of my attention is on you right now for the next half hour or so. We'll see how long this episode goes. But this is episode 10 of the Improved Podcast, which is pretty awesome. Not the biggest milestone we're going to hit, but it's double digits, so that's pretty sweet. It's also Christmas, the day after Christmas, and I didn't want to really feature a guest on this episode. I just wanted it to be you and me chatting it up. I also didn't want to not release an episode. I know it's the holidays and everything like that, but it felt weird to not talk to you on Mondays. This is what we do, you and me. But so what's this podcast going to be about if I don't have a guest? Well, it's the end of the year. We only have like 5-6 days till the new year. So why not take this opportunity to look back and reflect on what we've accomplished? So I'm going to roll the intro music and I'll be back to go over some of my goals for this year. And we can see if we accomplished them or not. Who knows? Maybe we did. Maybe we didn't. I do. But you'll find out soon. But hopefully while you're listening to this, it can give you some inspiration maybe for how to plan and execute some of your goals. If you didn't have any goals for this year, maybe next year you can start doing some stuff. And if you did have goals, why not reflect on those with me? Yeah? Sound like a plan? Alright, roll the intro music.
Improve Podcast. Improve Podcast. Improve Podcast. Improve Podcast.
Alright, everybody, welcome. So what were my goals for 2022? Maybe let's go back. What was the state of Chase in January 2022? So I'd been living in Florida for about a year, and at the start of the new year, I actually remember talking with Brian about this. I told him I wanted to run 500 miles at 10 miles a week, and that was one of my goals this year. We'll get to accomplishments later, we'll see. So yeah, I wanted to run 500 miles at 10 miles a week with, 2 weeks off every now and then, maybe I get 7 miles 1 week or something like that. And also I had one term left in my master's degree, so it was April 2022. So for the first quarter of 2022, all of my time was dedicated to finishing up my last term of the master's degree. So once that was done, it was like a huge weight off my shoulders. And I had been running, throughout this time. So it was like from January till March, I was studying and, finishing up my thesis and everything like that. So that took up a bulk of my time. I was still running. And then I finished. I got my master's degree. Everything worked out, and it was pretty huge weight off my shoulders. So I had a lot of free time on my hand. And that's when I started really working on my first screenplay, and we all know where that led me. If you listen to the first podcast, suddenly I'm running my own company, I'm doing this podcast, and I'm neck deep in screenwriting. It's sort of just snowballed all the way through, pretty much October. But that was sort of the state of 2022 at the beginning and how it led me to where we are now. But beyond just those creative and sort of professional goals, I also had other priorities. In fact, on the desktop of my computer, I have a document that says, what are my priorities? And it's 4 pages long. The first 5 pages are just 5 bullet points. And then I go into more detail on how I plan to accomplish those goals and stuff like that. So I'm going to actually open up this Word document right now and sort of take a look at it with you all. So like I said, yeah, the first page is just 4 bullets. First bullet was getting a new job. Second bullet was writing screenplays. Third bullet was CLSC Studios, incorporating CLSC Studios. fourth bullet was the Improve podcast. And fifth bullet was called the campaign season. And yeah, like I said, the rest of this Word doc sort of breaks down those goals into discrete goals, sort of like intervals of how I can start accomplishing those. Alright, so I'm going to skip bullet point number 1 and go to writing screenplays and talk about how I decided to break that down. So I have a sub bullet here, and it says 2 completed screenplays by 2023. And I have another sub bullet for my first screenplay, which its name was called Touch. And I wanted to have the first draft written by July 1st, and I would give that to my alpha readers to read that for the month of July. And because this screenplay was a musical a la Disney princess movies, I wrote several songs to be performed by the characters throughout that screenplay or throughout the movie. And so during that month of July, I wanted to write and record demos of those songs, and that was so while my alpha readers were reading that first draft, I would record the songs for it, and I did do that. That was a lot of fun. Maybe I'll share some of those someday. Maybe it'll be like a perk or something that I give out on or you'll be able to find it if you subscribe to the Classic Studios newsletter, which, shameless plug, if you haven't done that already, please sign up, because you only have a couple days until the first one's coming out, and then you'll never be able to know what was happening in January 2023 for Classic Studios, so keep that in mind. But yeah, so July came and passed, wrote those songs, got the reviews from my alpha readers, Amber, and for the month of August, I wanted to address those comments and sort of redo the draft of the screenplay, write the second draft, and that was my goal for September 30th, was to complete that second draft, and I completed it actually on the 3rd of September, so sort of like a month ahead of schedule, which was pretty sweet. And so that was sort of Touch, and that was my goal, was to have the second draft completed by 2023, and I accomplished that, which was pretty sweet. Second draft completed on September 3rd, 2022. So that's sweet. And then that's one completed screenplay. Now I have my second completed screenplay, which I did not accomplish. That was, you guys know all about that if you heard my previous episode. Me and my sister got to dive deep on why I struggled so hard with that screenplay. And so my goal was to have a completed draft, at least first draft, by like November, and then incorporate comments and everything like that by the first of the year. So didn't accomplish that. I'll get into how I'm going to rectify that little mishap a little bit later. But moving down to like my third goal was Classic Studios, incorporating Classic Studios. So that was something I think I originally wanted to do like in October, or actually in the new year. I wanted to incorporate in the new year because of like filing taxes and stuff, and if you incorporate within like 90 days of the new year, you like don't have to file taxes for 2022. But I wanted to launch this company in like late 2022, so I felt like I couldn't delay incorporating until 2023, so I had to incorporate earlier than I was anticipating. So I filed my articles of incorporation with the government on Friday, September 9th. So that's the day I incorporated. 9/9/2022. That's a weird name. Hey, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I've never seen that show. And then I had a couple of other subtasks with that, which I won't really get into. They're a little odd, but the main aspect of launching Classic Studios was something I coined, or I called, the campaign season, and it was sort of like all the promotional and advertising material associated with launching Classic Studios. So I wanted to release a teaser trailer an announcement video, and then the first project under Classic Studios, which is the Improved Podcast. So I wanted to do that on September 7th, October 21st, and then October 31st was the first episode of the Improved Podcast. So that's, I set those dates and, mapped it out and planned it out and everything like that. And oh gosh, it was a lot of work to do those, because I had to, script videos and film and all that stuff that I'd never done before, and edit, back to video editing. I hadn't done that in like 4 years. So that was a learning experience, I guess. And then, so that was fun. But moving on to goal number 4, the podcast, I wanted to sort of launch the first week of November. There's no real rhyme or reason behind that. I didn't want to do like launch a podcast in December when it's like a month, and then okay, now it's 2023. I wanted to give myself an extra month for that, and then for the first week in November, October 31st fell on a Monday, so it's like, well, I'm not gonna wait till the 7th or the 6th. I'll just launch it on October 31st. So kind of like a day early from my goal of early November. But there's a whole bunch of like behind the scenes legwork involved with that. Like, I wanted to create a logo. I needed to, have email addresses, Instagram pages, and YouTube's set up. But then I opted not to do a dedicated Instagram page to Improve Podcasts. I would just have it all on Classic Studios. And then I was thinking about, launching a Reddit page, a subreddit, or like a Discord server, but there was too much to do all within the next like 2 months. So that'll be coming maybe 2023 sometime. I think I said spring 2023, but that'll probably push out. I don't know how to do Discord. We'll figure it out. But then I also had to figure out like distribution for the podcast, because I don't know if anyone has ever like had to work on distributing, like whether it's music or different, oh gosh, I don't know, blogs. Do people distribute those in the same way as people distribute music? I don't know, but I had a little bit of experience with that when I worked with Fat Stanley, with a company called DistroKid that distributed your music to different recording platforms, or not recording platforms, but streaming platforms, like Spotify and Apple Music. And so I knew there was something like that for podcasts. So I had to do a lot of research on what service I would be using to develop that. And I wanted to get that completed by September 30th. So, like a month in advance, I wanted to have my distribution sort of established. And I ended up settling with Podbean, which is simple enough. They have some interesting back-end analytics. But I also, so once I got, logo, email addresses, distribution set up, I wanted to do my production schedule, establish that, like, how will I be distributing, what day will I be distributing this podcast or releasing the podcast, what days will I be recording, am I going to be doing, like, backlogs, which, obviously, yes, you guys know, like, I record these things months in advance and then schedule it out later, but, yeah, so then, from there, once I had, like, my launch date and the recording schedule, production schedule laid out, then it became like, started incorporating that campaign season I was talking about earlier. Like, okay, now I need to release these promotional videos on a certain number of days in advance so that people know that, oh, something's coming. How do we get, listeners and viewers excited about this? And so there's a whole lot of like, okay, well, I need to post like a teaser on my Instagram page, and then also that needs to show up on the podcast websites, because they like to have like a teaser, like a welcome video or a welcome episode. I don't know, whatever it is. A teaser, I think, is the best way to describe that. So that's it. And there's a lot of like interesting like thoughts that I had, like, oh, maybe I'll outsource someone like creating a reel for me to post that, or maybe I'll release videos on Wednesdays, or those types of weird things. And it's funny seeing how it worked out, and I sort of am getting into a flow and a rhythm and everything like that. And then I have a couple of notes here. Maybe this is like a teaser. But yeah, I have some notes for January, like what am I doing in January? What am I doing for February of 2023? So even back when I created this list, I was already like making plans for the future. But then my fifth goal is something called Project Season Alpha. And that was something I've put on hold, not indefinitely, but put on hold for like the foreseeable future. And I'll give you guys sort of what that is. What is Project Season Alpha? Um, but Project Season Alpha, it's sort of maybe the working title of a project that I want to launch. And it's a 12-month project that would go, well, at the time it would go January through December 2023. And I sort of described it as the highest quality content I can afford and that I can produce independently. So it would be sort of releasing 12 short films over the course of 12 months, produced under the Classic Studios banner with a lot of, with the workflow and production schedule sort of modeled after the Scrum team management ideal, sort of like taking an agile approach to filmmaking. And I don't know if anyone, I don't know if that's like a new idea, but it seemed like a really fun way to apply some of the skills that I work in my professional life into these personal passion projects. So I would be, using a Scrum model, having like a product backlog, having a sprint session, and then, or a Scrum planning session, and then going into a sprint where I'd be producing the film and then releasing or editing it, and then eventually releasing it, and that would take place within 1 month, and then releasing the next video, doing it, rinsing and repeating for 12 months, and seeing what I could do with that sort of model and seeing how it would work out. And I realized like I'm not ready to do that. I guess like I don't have 12 scripts in place. I don't have 12 ideas. I don't have a camera or audio or lighting. I don't have any of that type of stuff. So I need to figure out how to do that first, and probably reach out to like dedicated collaborators who I could like lean on for acting roles and stuff. So that's something I'm going to put on hold. I like the idea of starting it in January so I could finish in December, but it could just be a 12-month project that starts like in July. It doesn't have to be tied to this year date. But that's about all I'll talk about for Project Season Alpha, and that's just a fun little dream that maybe it will come true someday. I would like to work on that eventually. Get to really flex and produce some of my I don't know, other like skills that I have, or like the skills I want to practice, like producing, managing projects. Those types of things are something that I find interesting. So I skipped over the very first goal that I have. My number one priority for 2023 was, or 2022, excuse me. My number one priority for 2022 was getting a new job. So above writing screenplays, above the Improved Podcast, above Classic Studios, my number one goal was to get a new job. And, I said in the beginning, I finished up my master's in, March, April, and I'm a, I'm a young professional. I got goals and ambitions that are outside of Classic Studios, and if I want to support myself, like I know I need to earn a living in order to do that. And really, ever since I got my master's degree, I've been looking for a position that is better suited for someone with my like credentials and my experience. And so I love my current job. I love what I'm doing, and but it didn't, the position itself didn't feel like it reflected the the value I brought as a professional. And so in April and May, I started the application process, and I was pushing hard. I was applying for jobs, I was networking, I was doing all those things you're supposed to be doing, and it wasn't really working right. It was like 4 months of nothing, just like radio silence from all people. I mean, maybe not nothing. Like I had an interview here and there, but I was not prepared for those interviews. Maybe the job wasn't the right fit for me. And I was also spending a lot of time on Classic Studios, so I was like, going hard, but not giving it like my best effort. I was updating my resume for every job that I was applying to make sure I tag those keywords, but I wasn't really giving it the time and attention it deserved for being my number one priority. So that was, about 4 months or so. And it was like about September, and I got a call from my current job, and they said, "Hey Chase, we're gonna give you a promotion. We're hooking you up, with like the next level in your career," and it was really like a promotion in name only. There's a little bit of a pay raise. There was um, but I was doing the same job, so it's just a promotion in name only. I wasn't taking on more responsibility. I wasn't doing anything additional beyond what I was currently doing, and so that was great. Like I was happy, but I wanted more because I was putting in so much hard work, that I felt like I needed more than just like a, "Hey man, we recognize what you're doing." I wanted something like, "Chase, we can leverage your skills in a different way, in a different position here." And I'd been asking that for a long time with my current employer. Just hey, I'm hungry. Can you feed me? But I got this, promotion in September, and that was, encouraging. So I sort of put a hold on applying for jobs. It doesn't count technically as getting a new job, but I did get a promotion. That's something. So, and I was ramping up with the Improved podcast, so I just put a pause on um, my job hunt, so to speak. And a month or two, I guess, goes by of me casually applying for jobs. Like I'm probably looking at the Disney job board like once a week, throwing my resume on there or my application on there for any job that I found like interesting. I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. Let me throw my hat in, and then radio silence. Like I heard back from one job at Disney, and they were like, hey, we need someone who can do like expert coding, and I was like, well, I can't do that. I'm not a coder. I know my resume talks a lot about coding, but it's like all conceptual. It's not technical. But yeah, so like a month or two goes by, and then I get an email from someone on Indeed, and he says, "Hey, I saw your resume. I think you'd be a great fit. Would you like to apply for this job, or I can pass your resume on to this company?" And I said, "Well, I mean, maybe. Let me take a look at this job and let me see what it's all about." And I looked into the company, and it was really exciting. Like my jaw was on the floor of just how much of a perfect fit this position was for a guy like me, based on the work that I'd be doing and the work that the company um, is, or the field that the company is in. It was all like, it felt tailor made for a guy like me with my background. So I said yes to this recruiter. I was like, yeah, please, like pass my resume along to these folks. I would love to, have a conversation with them. And the company, they, liked my resume. They scheduled an interview, and I spent about a week preparing for the interview. Did all my homework. I like stalked the interviewees or the interviewers on LinkedIn. I found out everything I could about the position, how my skills could provide value to them. Um, and then the interview came, and this is in what, like I guess October or so. Um, and I interviewed with them late October. I interviewed with them, and there was supposed to be like 6 people on the interview list. So I was like a little intimidated. I was preparing. I was getting nervous, and and it was virtual. So I get on the Skype call or the Zoom call, and there's one person there. It was just me and him, and I was a little taken aback. I was like, whoa, that's not what I prepared for. But hey, I can work a crowd, I can work with someone one-on-one, no big deal. Um, and so the interview, I show up a little bit early to the interview, and I turn my camera on right away, just like, hey, I'm here, I'm ready to talk, show my face. And the interviewer never turns his camera on. And so I'm just sitting here like in a suit talking to myself with like a blank screen with his name, listed. I'm like, oh gosh, this is awkward. But beyond that, I was able to do the interview. Long story short, like crushed it. It was probably the best interview I've had, and I really liked the person interviewing me. They seemed to really like me, and I've had bad interviews in the past. A couple of them happened in the last year, and they were bad interviews. And this one was a good one. This was like a great interview, I can say that. And it was right before, I guess. So the interview finishes up. I email my recruiter and say like, hey man, I think it went great. Can you shoot them this message saying like, hey, thank you for the interview. Please let me know what the next steps are. And it was late October, and I was going up to Virginia for like about 3 weeks leading into Thanksgiving. So I told them that like, hey, I won't be able to start really anytime soon, maybe in like a month, because I have obligations and travel plans that I already committed to. And so the interviewer didn't seem like that was anything, not a big deal. We can get you started in December, no big deal. And he said, hey, if you don't hear anything within a week, like shoot me a message and I'll get back to you. And so I think it was like Veterans Day or whatever that holiday is, in like early November. And I didn't hear anything, but it's a holiday week, so I'm like, yeah, that's all right. So I wait like a week and a day, and I shoot a message, or I shoot a message to the recruiter like, hey, just wanted to see if you heard anything. And he was like, I haven't heard anything, but once it passes Thanksgiving, like reach out to me again, and we'll see what's going on from HR. And I reach out again after Thanksgiving, and he's like, hey man, haven't heard anything from HR. I think they probably closed out this position without hiring anybody. Good luck next time. And I was floored. I was like, what? How? This is crazy. Like, there's got to be something wrong. Like, I did everything I could. I was, I thought I killed the interview. This job was a perfect position for me. I'm like shocked. And so that was on Monday, after the Monday after Thanksgiving. And so but I've also been through this before. Like, I'm not going to sweat the small stuff. Like, this is just another interview. Of course, I was a little heartbroken, but like back on the horse, just back on the horse. Just got to start applying for jobs again. And this sort of lit a fire under me. Like, all right, I'm going to apply for more jobs, and I'm going to really like get the position I want. And then a couple of days go by. I'm a little discouraged. I'm getting ready to drive back down to Florida on Sunday, and that Friday, I'm supposed to spend the day with my mom. We're gonna be hanging out, doing some fun activities. It's like 9 a.m. I grab a quick shower. My phone's doing its music thing. I'm listening to tunes, and then I hear it buzz. Like I get a notification. I check my phone, and it's an email. I peek my head up the shower curtain. I see my phone, and there's an email notification, and I recognize the name. It's from my recruiter. I'm like, whoa, why is this guy emailing me? What's going on? It's Friday. So I finish up my shower. I can't wait. I just like check my phone and I see the email. And it says, hey, Chase, sometimes these things take time. HR would like to move forward if you're still interested in the position. I was like, whoa, that's like a little out of the blue. That's crazy. I thought this was over. Like you just told me it closed out. But I responded, yeah, I'm still interested. Let me know what the next steps are. And I'm just thinking like, okay, maybe there's another interview. Maybe, they're moving forward. I don't know what that means. And then the recruiter comes back within like 5 minutes. He says, excellent. I have a job offer to you late this morning or early this afternoon. And I was like, whoa, that's really fast. Like, heck yeah. I guess they liked me. Like, it worked. Everything worked out. All of my fears of, you know, getting like, excited and then shot down and then moved on, apply for new jobs. It was like, whoa, now I'm back to where I was. Like, all right, we're doing this thing. And so, yeah, after a bit of negotiations, I signed the paperwork that weekend, and I sent it over to HR that Monday and turned in my 2 weeks. And now my start date for my new job is January 1st, or January 3rd. Um, so that was like the story, I guess, of getting a new job for 2022. That my number one priority. I was able to finish it off right in the nick of time, and in 2023, I'm starting a new job. So it was a wild 2023 or 2022 to say the least, and I'm beyond excited going into 2023, and yeah, just over the moon. It's been a crazy wild ride. If you guys have been listening to the podcast, like, oh man, personally, professionally, I've been struggling with this and that and that. And, that's part of the reason why I had to put Mary Lee Barber on hold, because I was struggling with the story, but also I had like this huge weight of like doing interviews, all that stuff, and traveling. And it was just a crazy turn of events. But maybe, it's all going to work out. You put in your work, you do your due diligence, things will happen. It's like, it will happen. So it's pretty fun. But oh yeah, I almost forgot. I wanted to talk about my goals for running. So one of my goals, fitness-wise, was to run 500 miles for the year. I told Brian that, and I did not hit that goal. So yeah, 10 miles a week for 52 weeks. Give myself 2 weeks off. It's about 500. And what I ended up doing was 300 miles for the year, and that's a lot less than 500. But hey, 300 miles, I'll take it. That's not too shabby. So that's about running like 3 5Ks a week ish. But usually I break my running up with like 2 miles, 3 miles, 3 miles, and then another 2 miler. Because that's just what works for me. And I don't know how my new job is going to really like impact my workout schedule and stuff. It's going to be like a huge change, because I'm going to be going into the office, and I'm going to be working Monday through Friday. So just a little bit of an adjustment for my work-life balance, but we will figure it out. So I don't really have a goal for next year in terms of running, but I do want to definitely keep it up. Probably go for 300 miles again, maybe even push to that 500-mile goal, but I haven't committed yet. We'll talk about it. It is now, the last week of December, the last week of 2022, and that brings me to what my priorities are for 2023. I have a new document on my desktop. What are my priorities 2023? First priority is writing. I want to finish Mary Lee Barber in March 2023. That's my goal. I'm giving myself another 3 months to really dedicate the time and attention that this screenplay really deserves. So I'm going to finish that. My goal is March 2023. So I guess like January and February, I'm going to be writing for Mary Lee Barber. After that, I really want to take a second look at my first screenplay. I want to, I've had time to like reflect on it and see where, some of the issues are with the script. And I've gotten more feedback from like my family, and I'm ready to start addressing and incorporating those comments and making it like a tighter script, so that I can start, packaging it for sale, or like, pitching it to producers and directors and stuff like that. That's something I would like to start working on. I don't have a time or when I want that to be accomplished, but I guess maybe summer 2023, I would like to really start packaging that first screenplay into something that's worth showing professionals. But then I also am thinking about um, trying to like maybe write a TV show, or like developing, a pilot episode for a TV show, and then sketching out like an outline for, the first season, or, the series arc. So that's something I'm toying around with. And then I want to write probably another screenplay, get another screenplay under my belt, and I have a couple of ideas. and I'm really excited about them. I need to flesh them out before I divulge any details, but there's a couple of ideas I've been cooking up while I've had some time on my hands. Not writing, just time. But so that's my writing goals for Classic Studios. I'd really like to put out a short film, maybe six, but at least one. Probably just one short film for Classic Studios. That would be a lot of fun. And podcasting, oh man, let me talk about podcasting. So we are, full steam ahead. We're not even taking a break for the holidays. We are going full steam ahead, and we're going to start this month off strong, or start the year off strong, starting January, with a fitness themed podcast extravaganza. And for the month of January, we're going to be doing like fitness podcasts because it's the start of the new year. I think everyone is a little bit more motivated. It's about to be spring, something's in the air. We're going to get our bodies in shape and we're going to get our health in order for 2023. So we're going to do 4 weeks or 5 weeks. I think there's like 5 Mondays in January. Let me double check that. But we're going to do like 4 or 5 weeks of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, 5 Mondays in January. So I think we're going to do 5 fitness themed podcasts, and that's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to get a lot of Brian on the podcast because he's probably maybe the most like fitnessly inclined person, and we have some good podcasts lined up for you all, just talking about overall fitness, health, and like his philosophy on fitness. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And actually, we have our first episode of the podcast is a bit of a secret that Brian and I have been working on. It's a secret challenge that Brian and I have been engaging in, and it was a 100-day challenge that I am excited to share with you all. I'm like, right at the end of this 100-day challenge, and I can't wait to share what I've been putting my body through for these last 100 days. That'll be funny next week when you guys know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so we have the entire month of January. It's going to be a fitness podcast extravaganza, and then getting more into creative goals, creative podcasts throughout 2023. Starting in February, getting into some other secret projects that I've been working on with my sister. So that's going to be fun for you guys to learn about. And I also have that short film that's going to be coming out with Elijah that I've been writing, or he's been working on. I haven't been doing anything, just wrote it. But that's going to be coming out in like summer, maybe like late spring or something like that. And then I also want to expand the Improve podcast beyond just like people in my immediate circle. I want to start reaching out to folks with some interesting stories that I can talk about, and we can learn from them and how they got to where they're at and what they're working towards personally and professionally and everything. So those are some of my priorities for the next year, and I hope you listening to this have some ideas of like where you can take your priorities or your life like in the next year. It's I know New Year's like can get a bad rap. It's like, no, you shouldn't start setting your goals just because it's the dates change. You should start setting your goals the moment you feel motivated, and the moment you feel you can keep that up. And even when you don't feel motivated, like keep working towards your goals. But I like New Year's. It's like it's a good opportunity to reset. I think it's how my brain works. It's like, okay, then 1 year's done. Like I just did this whole sprint for 2022. Now I can start focusing on the next sprint for 2023 and work towards that. So I like the New Year. I think it's good. New Year's are good. Hot take, ladies and gentlemen. New Year's are good, actually. All right. I think I've rambled long enough. Let's see how long I've been chatting for. 40 minutes, baby. That's perfect. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it from me. We will see you all next year for the Improve podcast. We're coming back strong. Fitness. Get your running shoes ready. Get your gym membership going early this year, so we can all look good and fit and be healthy for 2023. But yeah, so 2023, we're coming for you. If you haven't already, please, leave a 5-star review. Please share this podcast with your friends, anyone who's you think might be motivated or needs motivation. It's like, oh no, I can't do everything in my life right. It's like, well, neither can I, but I'm trying. We're going to figure it out together. Join us. We'll figure it out together, man. And go to classicstudios.com, CLSC and sign up for our quarterly newsletter. The first one's going to be coming out in like a week or so that's exciting. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review. And also, if you guys just want to get in contact with me, just like have a chit chat, feel free to either reach out to us on Instagram, or you can send me an email at theimprovedpodcast@gmail.com. That's like I monitor that page. I get spam from Instagram or from Podbean or whatever. But I'd love to see some of your friendly faces in my inbox. And with that, I will talk to you all later. I'll see you Monday. I'll see you next year. Haha. All right. Peace.